Adding an authorized user on your credit profile with negative and derogatory items on there is like putting lipstick on a pig. At the end of the day, no matter how you dress that pig up, it's still a filthy pig. Shout out to all my pig lovers out there. Anyway, so in this video, I'm going to tell you how to strategically add an authorized user trade line to your credit profile so you can secure business funding. Because if you've been subscribed to the channel, if you're not, make sure you subscribe. But you should know 95% of business funding is predicated off your personal credit. So let's dive right into it. Now, what is an authorized user? Let's unpack that first. An authorized user is when you piggyback off somebody else's good credit history. It's essentially when someone adds you as an authorized user on their credit card. Now, this someone can be your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your uncle, potentially your best friend. So they're going to add you as an authorized user and you're going to inherit all that good credit history. Now, there's several reasons why you want to get added as an authorized user. Number one, it's going to boost your credit score so you can potentially get business funding. Number two, it's going to help you build a relationship with that financial institution. Now, before we get into the benefits in a person adding as an authorized user and how we can strategically put that on our credit profile to secure thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of business funding, I want to break something down. Because nothing boils my blood more than when I hear someone say, hey, just add a trade line to your credit profile and it's going to boost your credit score. Well, what type of trade line are you talking about? The word trade line can mean several things because there's different type of trade lines on your credit report. So let's take a primary trade line, which means a trade line that you own, that you control, that you're responsible for. That's a primary trade line. Now, a primary trade line can mean several things too as well. Is it a revolving trade line or an installment trade line as a primary trade line? Because there's two different types of trade line on your credit report. When it comes to your personal credit profile, revolving, installment. Let's unpack that. Revolving is anything that does not have a fixed interest and a fixed principal rate. For example, a credit card. You got any type of credit card. It can be a charge credit card. It can be a department store credit card. It can be a medical credit card. It can be a regular credit card. Then you also have lines of credit. It can be a home equity lines of credit. Anything that does not have a fixed interest and a fixed principal rate. It's revolving. So also essentially mean once you pay it off, once you use that credit card or that line of credit and you pay it off, you can reuse it. That's the beauty of revolving trade line. But you also have an installment trade line. Anything that does have a fixed interest and a fixed principal rate, such as a car loan, a mortgage loan, student loans, personal loans, child support, right? Anything that does have a fixed interest and a fixed principal rate is an installment trade line. So we have to be very careful how we use the word trade line. Then you got to transition to an authorized user trade line, which I stated before. This is a trade line that you're not responsible for. Somebody else is responsible for. So we have to make sure that we're using the proper terminology when we say, hey, just add a trade line. Now, when it comes to authorized user trade line, you only can it's only a revolving trade line. It's not an installment. So when somebody adds you as an authorized user, they essentially add you on a credit card as a revolving trade line. So I just want to be very clear on that before I dive into the two benefits on why you want to be added. We got it? You tracking me? Now we can dive into the benefits. Okay, so number one, to boost your credit score to secure business funding. Let's talk about that a little bit. Now, in order for you to secure business funding, sometimes you may have to add an authorized user, but you want to do it in a strategic way. Here's what I mean. When you add an authorized user to your credit profile, number one, you might want to lower your overall credit utilization. I'm going to dive into that. Also, you may need credit history. I'm going to dive into that. Also, you may need a good payment history. I'm going to dive into that. And lastly, you might need to show that you can manage a higher form of debt. So meaning that credit limit, you may need a high credit limit on your personal credit profile, 5, 10, 15, 20,000. But first, let's talk about good payment history. So when someone adds you as an authorized user to their credit card, you want to make sure that they paying their bills on time and over the period of time, because you're going to inherit all that good payment history. So they've been paying their bills on time for 2 years, which is the minimum that you want to at least have on as an authorized user. But 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, they've been paying their bills on time. So make sure they have no late payments, because they do, it's going to affect your personal credit score. It can definitely lower it. Number two, you want to make sure you have good credit history. Longevity matters when it comes to that authorized user trade line. So if they have a Chase card, you want to make sure that payment history is there. And you also want to make sure they at least have the card. Now, it depends on your credit profile, right? You may need credit history for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? So it balances out when it comes to your average age. Your average age just being how long you had your oldest account versus how long you have your newest account on your personal credit profile. So that's your average age when it comes to that. So adding an authorized user can help your average age. It can give you that longevity that lenders and creditors like to see in order for them to extend you any type of credit line or any type of line of credit. So authorized users can give you that. So make sure the credit history is there. Also, you want to make sure that the credit utilization is there. You don't want to get added as an authorized user and they over the limit on that particular credit card. Again, let's take Chase. So they have a $10,000 line of credit on there, or credit line, and they're using 50% of that, $5,000. That won't go so well as an authorized user, because that's going to reflect on your personal credit profile as well. So no lenders like to see anyone over 30%. I always recommend 10% or lower. So make sure that's intact too as well. Also, you want to make sure that they have a high credit limit, whoever adding you as an authorized user. You may need a 5,000, you may need 10,000, you may need 15,000, because banks like to look at your credit profile to determine how well you can manage debt, which is going to determine if they want to give you a 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, $25,000 credit line. So make sure that high credit limit is there, which can really help out your personal credit profile. So those are some of the benefits that can boost your credit score, because you might need payment history, you might need credit history, you might need to lower your overall credit utilization. Notice I'm putting emphasis on overall credit utilization, because here's what people think. If you, on your personal credit profile, if your credit utilization is above 30%, or let's say even above 10%, and you add an authorized user on your credit profile, it's going to lower your overall credit utilization. But these lenders and creditors is hit to the game. They're not stupid. They understand that not only your overall credit utilization matters, but your individual credit cards credit utilization matter. So they're going to take a look at that more than anything. You might can get away with your overall credit utilization when you're trying to apply for a mortgage or a car loan. But when you're trying to secure business funding, they're going to make sure that you're managing your debt with each particular credit card that you have on your credit profile. So that's also important. So you have to do different things to lower your individual credit card utilization, such as maybe paying it down, or maybe doing a debt consolidation loan, or maybe even just moving your money around, which is an advanced strategy that I can also teach you as well. But that's something you might have to do to lower your individual credit card utilization, as opposed to just focus on your overall credit utilization. It's a big difference. So I hope you're tracking me on that. Now, also, you may need your, if I didn't mention already, your credit history. So you may need a authorized user to be added to strengthen your credit history, because lenders like to see that not only you paying your bills on time, but also you paying your bills over the period of time. So longevity definitely matters. In fact, it makes up 15% of your credit profile. So we definitely want to make sure we have longevity. Maybe our primary trade lines that we own, that we control, that we're responsible for, we don't have it, but maybe we only have a 2-year trade line on there, and we want to add some more debt, so we can add an authorized user trade line on there to give us that debt that we need to make our credit profile look even better. Remember, credit is all about perception. Do you look good on paper? So we want to make sure we look good on paper to these lenders and to these financial institutions that are trying to give us any type of line of credit or credit line. So adding authorized users can definitely increase your chances. But notice I'm saying it in a strategic, I'm telling you in a strategic way, because don't just add the authorized users or more than one authorized user on your credit profile and you have negative and derogatory items. For example, you have collection accounts on there, you have car repossessions on there, you have evictions, you have bankruptcies. Look, it may even increase your credit score. But remember, lenders look at your credit profile and not your credit score. You tracking me? So we have to be mindful of that. We got to work on our credit profile, and that's going to ultimately increase our credit score. Now, if you're liking this information, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Also, make sure you like, because that helps out with the algorithm and it's motivating me to keep giving you this content that I know you can definitely utilize. So we definitely want to make sure we do that. Now, in addition to that, when it comes to an authorized user, here's what I recommend: using a family or a friend or a relative, somebody that you know, like a trust, because if you pay for an authorized user, for one, they don't last long, maybe a month or two. For two, some authorized users are not as impactful as others. For example, like American Express. Did you know American Express do not report the payment history when you get added as an authorized user? They only going to report the line of credit or the credit line, which can be 10, 15, 20, 25,000. But they don't report that loan payment history that you need. And most of you guys need that credit history, that payment history, to increase your credit score even more. So be mindful of that. Also, when you use a family members, it can stay on there as long as possible. So when you pay for it, that trade line may only report 30 days, 90, all the way up to 90 days. And that's it. Then it's gonna be removed off your credit profile. Now, the history might stay, but you're gonna lose that credit limit. So we definitely want to be mindful of that. So yeah, you want to add an authorized user in a strategic way. Make sure you have no negative, no derogatory items, or limited, especially within the last 2 years. But also you want to make sure that it's going to help you out wherever you need help at. So here's the thing. 95% of people who have poor credit is due to credit ignorance, which means we don't know what makes our credit score increase and we don't know what makes our credit score decrease. So when we add an authorized user, we want to make sure that we need credit history, right? So maybe we need a 10, 12 year, 20-year trade line, but make it make sense as far as your age, right? You don't want to add an authorized user for 30 years and you're only 30 years old. That doesn't make any sense. So be mindful of that. Now, we might need a higher credit limit, right? One of my primary accounts probably is only 2 years old. So we might need longevity. We might need a trade line that's for 10 years, 15 years. So we can add it that way. We might need a trade line with both. So you want to properly use your credit profile and evaluate it to see what you need before you add that authorized user. Otherwise, you're absolutely not only wasting your time, but you're wasting your resources and your money by getting an authorized user. One last thing I want to leave you with. When it comes to authorized user, these lenders understand that the difference between an authorized user and a primary. And it actually says it on your personal credit profile. This is an authorized user and this is a primary account. So when you add it on there, understand that most authorized users don't hold that much weight, especially as they used to, because there's different type of FICO scoring system out there. You got the FICO 8, FICO 9, FICO 10, FICO 10T, FICO 2, FICO 3, FICO 4. There's a lot of different type of FICO algorithms out there that most don't even use authorized users to calculate if they're gonna lend you any type of funding. So it depends on what financial institution you go to, depend on what bank you go to determine if they're going to actually use an authorized user to dictate if they're gonna lend you any type of funding. So be mindful of that too. So my point is, when you're dealing with the authorized user game, you have to be very strategic. And I hope this video gave you a better understanding on how to properly use an authorized user to increase your chances to secure business funding. Now, again, authorized user is meant to be used strategically. It's not a fixed solution. It's really just a temporary band-aid that you want to put on your credit profile to increase your chances. So don't put all your faith on the authorized user. Build your primary accounts that I listed earlier, right? Revolving installment accounts. Build those up. Pay your bills on time with those, and you should be perfectly fine, and remove those negative items, and you should be one step closer to business funding. Now, if you need help with this, I got an ebook down below. You can also grab that too as well. That'll help you to secure business funding even more. Or you can book a free discovery call with my team, and we can help you to secure business funding. Until then, I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.